Apple's totally going to shut this down.
They did.
Called it! I hate that people are like this, and because people are like this, we can't have nice things. Oh, would you look at that?
Wow, magic.
Humans are simply creatures of habit. We are stubborn. We do not like change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. As always, I'm Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
My name is Alpha De Wolf.
And unfortunately, our other host, TabbyCat406, could not make it because he was unavailable for recording. But we are all here to wish you a happy holidays from TIFP. This will probably be the last episode before Christmas.
Might be, yeah. Unless we happen to do another one. I'm trying to recall.
Christmas will probably get in the way of editing it if we do it one next week, so.
Well, sadly, I'm doing nothing special this holiday season.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do another one before Christmas. But meanwhile, happy holidays regardless. And now, without further ado, we have to get started on to the actual topic. So our first topic is that the iPhone 6 SE4 may reuse the iPhone 14 battery.
14 battery.
Just the regular 14 battery.
So it's probably going to take the same shape as the 14.
Yep.
Or the 13, or the same chassis. I don't think there's a chassis difference other than the 14 has removable back glass or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, it'll be a massive upgrade compared to using the 8 chassis.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Oh, jeez. I don't know why they've been holding out on that for so long. Just face it, everyone. The home button's dead.
Yeah, it is.
It's not needed in this world anymore.
Alright, now we've gotten that topic out of the way, we can move on to our next, unfortunately controversial topic.
Controversial, oh dear.
Unidentified government agencies have been caught tracking phone activities via push notifications, and the reports specify that was democracies aligned with the U.S., meaning that probably the EU, but it also means the U.S. is potentially doing it too. And this isn't going to be our first blunder with issue with the U.S. government in this episode, FYI.
Whew, oh boy. Yeah, I feel like they've been trying to do this for so long. Yeah, the FBI was. I keep bringing this example up in terms of how Apple actually cares about security. They said no to the FBI. They said no. We are not giving you a back door to our house. You can't. You're not coming in just like that.
Yeah, Apple's. Governments don't have a purpose spying on notifications the only notifications that I think of that could potentially reveal any sort of crime or else do anything to benefit the government is if you're sending messages or emails that contain information that A, are either from government employees or B, are of potential crimes that the FBI can track them down, but that's not the majority of notifications. And even in iOS, I know you can change it so that way it doesn't say a specific message.
That sounds like a whole constitutional violation, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Doesn't violate Fourth Amendment? Yeah, Fourth Amendment.
Doesn't violate the probably doesn't violate the EU's though.
I don't know all of the EU's laws other than I know some of their stupid ones.
Yeah. Alright, well.
Yeah, the fact that they're trying to do that really disgusts me because that's just flat out Fourth Amendment violation. That's like Joe Schmo has the right to walk into your house to see anything going on.
Yeah,
right?
That's not. Yeah, it's not safe. That's not safe, and it's not fair. And it's not fair for any government body to do that.
No, it is not. So they should not be doing that. I don't know why they're poking their noses into that. It's just it's a huge violation.
Alright, but before we get canceled, we should probably cover our next topic, which is going to also make you mad, but this one luckily is not political. This is actually a series of rumors.
All right, so what's this?
So, remember how I said that there would be no new iPads until 2026 or 2027?
Don't tell me they're about to delay it even further.
No, actually, even better. They're now the next iPad Air and Pro are now set for 2024, and the new iPad Pro keyboard is going to be aluminum with an increased trackpad size, like a MacBook. The Apple Pencil 3 is going to release in early 2024 with magnetic tips and a glossy finish. And the new next iPad Mini is going to rotate the LCD controller to fix jelly scrolling, which will also be debut in 2024.
That sounds good.
I'm impressed.
These sound like things that would, yeah, these sound like things that would fix each issues with, well, except for the iPad Pro. There's nothing that can save that but software. But like the iPad Mini, the jelly scrolling thing.
It's not a real issue, but at the same time, if Apple can fix it, then great.
I think the only reason it became an issue was because literally the same day tech reviewers were unboxing that, they were also unboxing the 13 Pro at the same time.
Yeah, that definitely didn't help it.
So yeah, there's no way that helped the iPad Mini's case. So because we're all excited. The number one feature that all of us techies were excited about when the 13 Pros came out was ProMotion, 120 hertz. And we ate that up. And by the time we unboxed the iPad Mini with a 60 hertz display, all of a sudden that became way more noticeable to everyone.
It's like driving a gas car. It's like driving a gas car at an as this example is actually going to foreshadow later on this episode, but it's like going back to driving a gas car after driving an electric car.
Yes, I'd put it that way perfectly. So,
and the
yeah, jelly scrolling, that was the number one thing with the iPad Mini that is really not that major of an issue, but it does become more noticeable with, I believe that is the only 16:9 iPad they make? Correct me if I'm wrong?
I don't know.
Because that aspect ratio just does not look 4:3 to me. I think it's 16:9, but I don't know what it is, but correct me if I'm wrong. But the point is, it's a wider aspect ratio than the other iPads, and because it's going down vertically, it has more time to make itself noticeable and such. So yeah, that doesn't help. So yeah, changing the orientation of the display controller, that will certainly help fix the Jellygate problem, which is so minor. It's kind of like Bendgate. It's not a problem until you make it one. iPad Air. What were the rumors with the iPad Air again?
Oh, the rumors that we haven't covered yet are just that they're set for 2024. That's it.
Oh yeah. iPad Pros, on the other hand, actually, I really wish they would scrap the whole magic keyboard with trackpad accessory case thing for it.
Yeah, it costs like $300 for goodness sakes. That's almost as much as another iPad.
Dude, if you need a device with a keyboard and a trackpad, I'm pretty sure you're looking for a MacBook.
Yeah, I have just the keyboard case on my iPad because the keyboard does benefit to its user experience, and I also like that I can stand it up. However, even though I'm not finding his keyboard even though I'm probably not going to get the keyboard case with the next iPad I get. But a keyboard case of a trackpad for almost as much as another iPad, I'm not interested. Like another brand
That
new
and truly,
iPad,
the trackpad. Yeah, the trackpad does not do anything to benefit the user experience.
No, on my school iPad 9th generation with the Logitech keyboard case, it has a trackpad on it. I never use that trackpad.
I was literally about to ask that, and there we go. See, I don't understand why you'd use that. If you're looking for a device with a keyboard and a trackpad, why buy this hodgepodge of a janky setup instead of just buying something that was designed with it in the first place? iPad was designed with a touchscreen in mind. Use it that way.
Still better than a Windows PC, though.
Just barely, in my opinion. Yes, it is better, but not by much. But, I mean, there's a reason why I only got the accessories with the iPad and no other type of accessories. Why did I get the Apple Pencil? Well, duh, it makes sense. Tablet, stylus, drawing.
The first tablets in Mesopotamia where you use styluses with them.
Yeah. And, well, no, it's not required. You're not required to use this throughout the entire thing. You can just use your finger. For arts and for getting into art and all of that, boy, this is such a nice stylus. It just made too much sense. iPad, Apple Pencil, they're like the perfect accessories matched made in heaven.
Almost sounds like the stylus Steve Jobs would approve of.
For the tablet, at least, especially for artists, because it just makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. And then the only other accessory I got for this is this folio case, the smart cover thing. Why did I get that? To pretend my hand is a table here. Props it up.
Makes perfect sense.
I usually get my if I get cases for my tablets, I usually get folio cases for this reason.
Same.
So, yeah. Other than that, why did I not get a keyboard with this? Because if I want a keyboard attached to my device, I've already got it. It's my MacBook Pro. Same with the trackpad thing. I've already got a device with that, and it also takes advantage of those two items much better. I don't really type on this device that much. I rarely do.
I do, but I'm not I do on my iPad, but I'm often not at a convenient place to where I can type, to where I'm not at a stationary desk with my iPad Air 5. So, as a result, I have to use the on-screen keyboard anyway. And the only time however, the one exception to this is sometimes I found myself when I have some downtime at school, so I can type video scripts during that downtime, and so as a result, on my iPad 9th generation, I do use the physical keyboard on that, but.
Yeah, I think I prefer the iPad's on-screen keyboard over getting a separate one for it, and for this one reason. In fact, I kind of wish the iPhone had this feature. You know how you can drag a key down and it'll pull a number down or a symbol?
I love that. So I remember when I lived with iOS 9 for a week, and you remember that video that I made back in March 2022 about living with iOS 9 for a week?
That long ago? No, I wouldn't.
Well, in that video, I mentioned how the first thing I noticed when I went back to my iPad 2 was that I immediately noticed the lack of being able to pull numbers down.
Yeah, I wish my iPhone did that. I really do.
I don't because iPad phone keyboards are to me a little more too cramped to do that, but I have fat fingers, so
at least give it to us as an option.
But the fact that the next iPad Pro keyboard is going to be aluminum, I'm I have mixed
What's it
feelings
made out
about
of
that since
now?
I'm just
Is it just
silicone,
plastic or
but
something?
silicone and plastic. But I like how, but I'm not too. On one hand, I like the aluminum, still make it lighter and feel a little more premium. But on the other hand, I don't like it because it's not going to be quite as protective for the iPad. And
I'm
more
pretty sure
importantly,
switching it to aluminum is actually going to make it heavier.
but that's what I. Sam Cole in his video on it said it would be lighter, make it lighter, but that's kind of what I believe too. But more importantly,
I don't
you
think
know
so,
what?
knowing how much I work with different materials. Like,
Yeah, but
if I recall, this is a silicone case right here, right?
yeah,
This is this is silicone. Aluminum is definitely heavier than this.
well,
I should know. I work
It's
with
a-
it all the time. So,
whatever the. Well, maybe this is more plastic, but whatever this is supposedly lighter, but more important, but more sadly, you know what aluminum's gonna do to the price tag of the keyboard?
it's gonna drive it up.
On a $300 keyboard. 300. Like the fact that you'll be especially because Apple's rumored to lower the price for the iPad 11 as they're getting rid of the iPad 9, so they'll probably lower the price of the iPad 11. Like the fact that Apple's gonna sell a keyboard for as much as a new iPad. I don't get it.
Apple's accessories,
It's like
a lot
Apple's-
of them they just don't make sense, especially price wise.
It's like Apple's Pro display stand.
$700 wheels.
Yes.
Yep.
But one thing I'm more happy about is the Apple Pencil 3 with the magnetic tip, or I have mixed feelings about that too, actually, because I like how it makes switching out tips easier so that we can do more cool things. But on the other hand, sounds like it'll just make the tips come off easier. And the glossy finish of the Apple Pencil 1, I do personally like the glossy finish of the Apple Pencil 1 to hold in the hand, but I'm not the
I always
biggest fan
prefer
of
glossy finishes.
But I'm not the biggest fan of glossy finishes on my actual pencils when I write with them, though I'm not a big writer, so I don't know how to feel about that.
I just hope that they keep this flat, like on the Apple Pencil 2 here, because I
So
found it
do
really
I.
helps me grip this so much.
Yeah, I hope they do too. Well, they're gonna have to if they want to keep it charging, keep it able to charge like the Apple Pencil 2.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't the USB-C Apple Pencil have a flat on it as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, yeah, I think it's kind of come into Apple Pencil's signature design language because it's, I don't know, it's very functional. It's too functional to get rid of.
I agree. And Apple usually doesn't get rid of their functional stuff.
Well, they got rid of 3D Touch and the Touch Bar.
Well, other stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to say. Alright, sticky back here.
But meanwhile, speaking of functional, we need to talk about a company that is going to make we need to, apparently I did not organize my topics well enough, but we need to talk about a company that is extending the support of something unfunctional or dysfunctional, excuse me.
Dysfunctional. Boy, there's so many dysfunctional things out there, like Windows.
Ding 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 ding. You want to know this exact article?
How did I guess this? All right, what is it?
Exact topic. Microsoft is going to be offering paid extended support for Windows 10 after support ends in 2024.
It's ending in 2024.
Yeah. Because it's 9
Better
years
warn my
old.
boss about that. Oh crap! Yeah, I better warn him. Otherwise, SolidWorks is gonna freak out.
Oh yeah, that there's a reason why Microsoft is going to offer extended support for it, but it's going to be paid. So
That sucks.
but
That just
and
sucks.
my grandmother will also have to be warned about this too because her PC still runs Windows 10 as it's from 2018. I'm not sure if it can be upgraded to Windows 11 or not.
As long as it has a processor that's newer than Intel's 7th gen, it should be able to do it.
And even then, PCs, well, and even then, I could probably hack it on. And even then, you can hack Windows 11 on PCs as old as the late 2000s. So I've even
Oh, I
seen
suppose
some
it's a good
PCs.
thing that my mom's in the market for a new laptop too. Because hers is a
Please.
7th gen Intel and doesn't have Windows 11 support.
You should convince her to buy a Mac.
I've tried, believe me, but I can't do it. Especially remember, most of my family, they use Android. We know Androids
but
aren't
you could reverse
particularly that
that.
friendly with Macs.
That is true. That's a good point. But speaking of Android, our next topic is that Microsoft is launching the Xbox App Store for iOS and Android, or at least they want to release it for iOS and Android. Probably won't be able to do it on iOS.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll do it on Android because Android allows this type of stuff. And why not iOS? It's because Apple says no, and it's fine. That's
Yes.
perfectly okay.
And especially because the Microsoft App Store is probably not, the Xbox App Store is probably not even going to work correctly anyway.
It does not. I hate how it processes. For some reason, the way it handles updates to the apps, the Microsoft Store app in Windows, the update literally happens as an app in the Microsoft App Store. So if you happen to have multiple apps installing along with an update to the App Store, basically it'll start downloading that update to the App Store while it's downloading all your other app updates as well. And then once it gets to start installing that update for the Windows App Store, it shuts it down because, of course, you have to shut the app down in order to install updates. And completely stops updating the rest of my apps. And it'll open up the App Store again once it finishes updating and does not continue to resume installing the rest of the updates for my apps.
More importantly, why does the Microsoft Store even exist? Because as Tabby may point out if he was on this show, as he pointed out in a YouTube video on another channel called Milos Cats back in December of 2020, that's now unlisted. No one really uses the Microsoft Store for much.
I found actually, if you want to continue to use iTunes, yes,
Well,
I still use iTunes. That is now the only way to get it. You have to go through that App Store.
What about, don't they have it on Apple's website?
I've tried looking there, and it just brings me back to the Microsoft App Store.
They have IP. Have you tried scrolling down the webpage?
I've given up. I hate this platform so much. I choose to do whatever I can to not waste my time on it.
What about, have you tried ipsw.me? It downloads it directly from Apple servers.
Again, I don't care about Windows. I just do whatever I can to spend as little time messing with it. So if it's going to scream at me to do it through the Windows Store, fine, I'll do it that way. That, and it processes updates through there too, instead of, oh, now you need to download a separate application to manage updating iTunes. Ugh.
Yeah, no. On my Windows 7 computer, it usually lets me scroll down, but it might not come up with those warning messages since the Microsoft Store doesn't exist on Windows 7. Because Windows 7 is the only Windows version I constantly use.
It's the best. Microsoft, you had a good one going for you, and then what did you do? You flushed it down the toilet. Just why?
Well, speaking of flushing things down the toilet, we should probably talk about our next company, which is Beeper.
Oh, jeez. That thieving company.
Alright, so Beeper announced that they were going to add FaceTime, RCS, and SMS support in the future, even though Apple shut it down and then made them revert to a classic login with the Apple ID service.
You know, actually, I don't know if we gave this update on what happened last week, but essentially, I completely called this. The second that I learned Beeper had hacked Apple, stole their proprietary stuff, and started profiting off of it, I'm like, Apple's totally going to shut this down.
They did.
Called it!
You called it perfectly.
Yeah, so their Beeper will claim, oh, it's back up and running, but if you happen to take a look at it, they're refusing to admit that Apple totally took control of the situation because Beeper was doing something totally illegal. I'm actually surprised that Apple hasn't sued them yet, but yeah, now Beeper, secretly behind the scenes without telling anyone, they've gone ahead and purchased a ton of Mac Minis and is basically doing the same thing that Nothing Chats was doing.
Yep. Oh boy. Beeper thought they could get away with it, but they're not.
That was so stupid! Like, why did they bother trying?
Beeper thought they could get... Beeper probably just wanted to make a quick buck.
Again, Apple should still sue them.
Because Beeper's still trying, and more importantly, they want to add FaceTime support, which Apple does offer on Android, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of pointless. I don't understand why they're trying to go for that because it's already there.
And RCS and SMS support, okay, if they're maybe trying to become the ultimate instant messenger, okay, but I don't know if Google will let them add RCS.
I think the more we scream the extremely shady stuff that Beeper has done, I think the more people we might be able to convince don't use the service.
Yeah, yes, I'm pretty sure because they're not a carrier and don't know how they can add SMS support, and more importantly, Beeper thinks it's okay to charge for an instant messaging platform that stole code from Apple.
Well, it's not just code from Apple. It's literally the entire service. Like,
Yeah.
the servers they were using to make this happen, it wasn't Beeper's own servers. It was actually Apple's. They were actively using Apple's resources to power this Beeper messaging thing, and they were making money off of it.
You know who else did that? Did that back in the 90s? Microsoft. Microsoft stole code from Apple's QuickTime to make Microsoft Movie Video Player or Windows Video Player and Windows Media Player and Windows 3.0, I believe, but they got sued by Apple for that because they stole code from Apple, and as a result, Microsoft had to pay back a $150 million file. $150 to Apple as part of an investment, though. And consequently, people think because that was at the same time that Steve Jobs returned to Apple, everybody thinks that Microsoft saved Apple. Like, Microsoft did not save Apple.
Microsoft is
Apple.
nobody's hero. Nobody's hero.
Except for Bill Gates.
Don't even get me started on that. I hate that man more than I hate Mark Zuckerberg and Tim Cook.
Mark Zuckerberg is going to be coming up later in this episode. Don't worry about that.
Oh, gosh. But, yeah, this whole Beeper service thing, I totally called it. I knew Apple was going to shut it down.
And they did.
I still think Apple should file a lawsuit against them because, again, Like, not only did they steal code and essentially the entire service, they were using Apple's own resources that cost money to operate. That's money lost from Apple. They stole so much from Apple. They should be able to get away with the loss. Apple should be able to get away with filing a lawsuit against Beeper for this. Because they did so much wrong. It just makes too much sense.
Alright, well, speaking of Apple, we have our next topic, which is our final actual Apple news topic, is that LG is working on under-display cameras for Apple to be in iPhones by 2026, which will be the iPhone 18 series.
I mean, that'll be interesting to see the notch on the stupid camera whole pill thingy go away.
I'm excited for that too, because then that's an even better improvement than the dynamic island.
The thing is, I'm not so sure if I want. Like, I didn't like it when the notch went away in favor of a dynamic island thing. Just, I don't know. Once we get to that point, all phones will instantly start to lose their identity.
On the front, anyway.
Yeah. And then the only functional thing left that would drive me insane is, how would you know which is right side up?
I guess if you looked at the back, but that's extra steps.
Yeah, because most people, they leave their phone resting on a table with the screen facing up. So how would you know? Then again, there's also this rumor where they might get rid of the physical buttons in favor of solid state. But in that case, how do you know where those buttons are if you can't even tell where the front of the phone is? Which way is right side up?
LG working on the under display camera for Apple. I think it's cool, and I think it's definitely the future. But
oh yeah, I think that tech's cool too.
Apple is probably going to address those, though. Knowing Apple.
Yeah, it's just it's going to lose so much identity. That's what I thought when Apple changed the notch on the 13 series, added the dynamic island thing on the 14 series, and like you looked at the iPhone 10 when it came out. And there was no mistaking whether it was the iPhone 10 or not. You knew, no matter which way you looked at it, it is the iPhone 10.
To this day, I can still tell if it's a 10 or a 10s.
Same here. But nowadays, sometimes it kind of looks like, sometimes it gives me Android phone vibes, which isn't a good thing.
Yeah, the iPhone 13 notch does kind of look like the Pixel 3 notch, and luckily the dynamic island looks different enough as it's more in the center unlike most Android phones, so it still looks like an iPhone, but
that, and it's also huge compared to the rest of the competition in terms of cutout size. But yeah, it's just once this happens, we'll no longer be able to tell what phone is what just by looking at the front of it.
Well, speaking of disasters, do you want to know what our next and final news topic is?
Oh gosh, more disasters. This is fun.
So Meta is working with the U.S. Congress to legally force kids under the age of 18, or 16, excuse me, not 18, luckily, to require parents' approval of downloading apps.
This company thinks they are obligated to protect children? when
importantly,
they're not
this-
obligated to protect our own privacy.
And more importantly, this goes to show you how they're working in politics. Like the Meta's been known for working for politics for some time, but I've actually found this out in an ad by Meta, mind you, that played on YouTube.
Huge no.
No, this is the type of stuff you see in China. No. Hopefully, if there's a bill that passes, hopefully it won't. Hopefully, it can wait until April because I turn 16 in March.
Absolutely. Why? Why? What is their reasoning for this?
Again, for an invasion of privacy, but I actually tweeted about this, and
Yeah, I saw the tweet.
And you know what a reply I got from the Outlander was?
I have not seen the reply. No. What was it?
First time I like that I'm in the EU anyways.
That's just...
You know it's bad if somebody would rather live in the EU due to tech regulations.
Why do they have to do this? The EU is restricting our ability to create awesome tech. And now we got this joke of a company coming in, stepping in, and trying to do the same? Why?
Now, granted, I know this isn't prohibiting tech companies, and I understand parents want to keep their kids safe, but
what does this accomplish?
This doesn't accomplish much, and more importantly, kids can easily take kids, when their parents aren't looking, could easily take photos of their parents' IDs, and more importantly, download apps that they shouldn't.
And here's another thing that they could do
still
too.
Do that.
They could create an account and lie about their age and completely bypass that.
Yeah, in fact, in China,
I did that with Pandora, actually.
I've done that. I actually had to do that with all my online accounts back in the day.
Yeah.
So my Twitter account still to this day thinks I am 29, and my YouTube account thinks I am 26. And my Google account, my main one thinks I'm 26.
Jeez. Man, I was so lucky that I was old enough before they really cracked down on the age limit. Like, if I recall, I was under the age of 13 when I made a Pandora account. No, Pandora had started doing it. I don't know. They put in some restrictions back when I was under 13, and downloading apps. That's right. Gmail and Google and downloading apps on Android. I know this because my sister has this issue. I created an account, and I put my real age when I was under 13, and I could still download basically any app I wanted. No need to ask, hey mom, hey dad, can I download this? Nope. I could do whatever the heck I wanted with the age that I put in, which is my actual age, under 13. And a few years later, my sister, at the time, who was under the age of 13, signed up for an account, and we expected all these things to happen, except, nope! Now you need to have a parent account tied to it. And you have to ask them every time you want to do something extremely simple.
I created my Apple ID back in 2020, and I created my Apple ID back in May 2020 before I turned, when I was actually still 11, almost 12 when this happened, but as a result, I had to link it to my mom's Apple ID, and so she lets me do what, but she kept Ask to Buy turned on, which is so freaking annoying because sometimes I have to download apps and I need them now, like school applications, for example, on my phone.
Oh, that is so annoying.
I need to download apps now. Instead, it takes forever because of this stupid Ask to Buy feature. In fact, I should ask my mom sometime if she could turn that off.
Yeah, that's so. I hate stuff like that because it actually becomes more of an annoyance on parents than it is for kids. Because yeah, the kids will find it annoying, obviously, but then parents are going to be even more annoyed, especially when it's, say, well, Flappy Bird. Say a kid wants to download the Flappy Bird app or something like that,
There's no harm in Flappy Bird doesn't have any harm. No kid has any
or
harm.
Flow Free, or Chess.
Yeah, those apps don't have any harm. Those apps don't do any harm to young kids.
And yet you gotta go to mommy and daddy. You gotta say, "Hey, I need your help. I need to download. I need to download this app, and it won't let me do it unless you." Okay, it just becomes an annoyance for them, and especially when you have kids that are responsible. Now, why is this coming into play? It's probably because, unfortunately, we're living in a world today where the majority of kids are not responsible at all, and so that means they have to take away nice things from them. But why can't... Okay, say they have to do this. Why can't they provide a setting for the parents to turn that on or off? Say, they trust that their kid has enough responsibility to know whether this app is safe or not.
And more important, Apple, iOS, and Android already offer those features too.
So, really, does the Apple ID thing actually let you do that? Shut off that type of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, my mom could turn screen time was actually enabled first initially on my Apple ID, but my mom turned it off.
I'll have to let my parents know about that at some point because my sister is still complaining. She needs some specific app for something, and then has to go to mom and dad to do it because. Yeah, why is it still restricted? She's over 13 now, and yet she's still restricted in this regard. That makes no sense.
My mom turns on Ask Advisor because she wants me to, even though my mom finds it quite annoying too, so...
Yeah, but again, why do we need this to be legislated?
I don't know.
To me, this is something the parents should decide.
But this reminds me of me when I first, of how much more restrictive it's gotten to the point where I actually I'm lucky that my YouTube channel was safe until I turned 13.
Oh yeah.
Because what happened was, so back in 2015 I created my Gmail account because I wanted to create my own email account and my mom let me, so I created my Gmail account back in 2015 and it was and I set at that point where I would be 18 years old. But it didn't matter at the time. But it didn't really matter. And I could just go on and use that Google account to upload YouTube videos and do whatever I want to. Then in November of 2019, COPA came along and decided to ruin all that. First of all, as they not only made it when you had to... regardless of your location, mind you, which is a little bit unethical to make people in foreign countries follow American laws.
Yeah,
especially
I get it that some kids need protection, but this is just too far. This is going too far, and you can't just let big tech do it all. Sometimes some kids can actually handle and are responsible enough to know what's safe and what's not.
And most parents are too.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was one of those kids who actually could recognize that type of stuff. And yeah, the more that those restrictions came in, that got so annoying. And now it's made a painful experience for my sister using her tech and all that, doing her online stuff as well. I can't imagine how painful it's going to be for my even younger sister when she eventually creates an email account to do stuff.
But more important, and then in 2020 and 2021 when I started uploading YouTube videos, mind you, YouTube never did this before, but they started disabling comments on literally every one of my videos to the point where I just had to keep turning comments on.
There are some
And
videos that I've uploaded where YouTube will not even allow me to turn the comments back on for.
Yeah, like I can go turn them on, but then they turn them back off again. And this is one thing that actually aggravates me is that they make it where you can't turn comments back on even on videos that are really old when the YouTuber is probably not a kid anymore. Like, for the only reason I was able to circumvent that was because my voice dropped. That's the only way I was able to get around that.
Yes, that is.
And I only had one other video
it drives
after
me
my
nuts.
voice
YouTube
dropped.
plays it so safe when it comes to kids. They play it so safe. They look for factors like pitch of voice. What's another? Oh, cartoony. Is it animated? You could have this even their own system of this is kind of broken. Where if you have an adult animated show that's presented on YouTube, YouTube will flag it as it's for kids.
That I remember reading so many reviews. I remember hearing about that and how many people were driven nuts by that.
It's so broken, and I know why it's broken, and I hate that people are like this. And because people are like this, we can't have nice things. Drove me nuts how a lot of things went at school, how they've had certain things that we used to be able to access, and then they had to take it away because everyone would misuse them. It was nice while we had it, but because they were abused, we can't have nice things.
I remember this was a constant issue back when I was in 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th grade when if a few kids were acting up, then the whole class had to miss recess.
Yeah, again,
that's not me right. Insane.
I get it, there's a few bad actors out there, but let's focus these issues on those bad actors and not completely take away the nice thing. Just, why? At this rate, nobody wins. Whoever's providing the service loses because they can't provide that service anymore. Whoever was consuming that service also doesn't win because now that service is gone.
So nobody wins. Win. They win.
I don't even know if they win because I don't even know if they win because they have to put money towards. Sometimes they have to put money towards getting rid of the service or stopping the service. So again, nobody wins. Other than maybe some lawyers. It's just a downward spiral. And Meta should have no involvement in this at all.
Yeah, and for goodness sakes, kids barely even use Meta services anymore. Facebook is basically at this point.
They use Instagram a lot.
They don't. Kids don't really use Instagram anymore in my area.
Yeah, the two most frequent apps I see downloaded on teenagers' phones, it's Instagram and it's Snapchat.
I see Snapchat and TikTok.
Oh, that's a crappy service too. Why is that still on the platform?
Why TikTok exists is a mystery to me. It's not a mystery to me, but it drives me insane.
No, why it still exists is a mystery to me.
Because people love TikTok, apparently, because it's so great.
Yeah. Super short, dumb, vertical. Wow, yeah. Gosh, that platform is such a crap hole. Anywho, I think we had enough of this topic.
Yep, it's now time to move on to my next topic, which is a lot happier.
Oh, thank you.
Can you guess what it is?
Does it involve me and what happened on Saturday?
Nope, that's the next topic after this one.
Oh, okay. I don't have any guesses, actually.
Does it regard anything maybe that I bought?
Oh. Yeah, that thing. Space Black, perhaps?
Yes, as you may have seen on my Twitter and YouTube community posts, I have officially ordered my new Space Black M3 Pro 18 with MacBook Pro of 18 gigabytes of RAM. It's the 60-inch configuration. And more importantly, I just got an update that is officially going to deliver on December 21st.
Right before Christmas. Oh, that's nice.
I'm so excited.
I bet.
It's a week away.
Yeah.
In fact, I might.
Oh, wait.
In fact,
21st?
yeah.
That's a Thursday.
You know what that means? Maybe
You
this
could
will be the
unbox it
last-
live right on the show.
Or I won't. I'll do it in a YouTube video. But you know what that also means?
Oh,
This will be the
that'll
last
so
podcast
nice.
episode done on an Intel Mac. Partly
Yes.
done on an Intel Mac. And more importantly, I
Oh.
can have a reliable enough
No
Mac
more
to actually edit
fans!
TIFP. Yeah, no more fans.
Oh, it drives me nuts when
No.
I hear those fans spin up in the podcast.
No more fans.
And you don't need to worry about your blue snowball mic anymore. You can just use the built-in ones on your
I
MacBook.
already use the built-in mic on my MacBook. I don't use my blue snowball mic now.
Yeah, they're just too good. The mics on the MacBooks, they're so good.
And more importantly, if my iPhone webcam continuity camera decides to be stubborn, the 2023 Mac Pro actually has a good enough webcam.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Can you not
this
see
will
the
be so
advantage?
exciting.
This is gonna be the best. This is gonna be the biggest upgrade in technologies that I've done, and quite. This is gonna be as big of a jump. This next jump that I make is gonna be as big. Is probably maybe not quite as big, but it'll be as big of a jump as me upgrading from my 2014 MacBook Air to my 2019 MacBook Pro.
It'll probably feel bigger. They've done so much to this MacBook compared to the previous generation.
And more importantly,
You won't even have to find a charger anymore.
yeah, and the best part is that I now have enough money where I can now spend my money looking at Macs that maybe aren't brand new and shiny to add to my Mac collection, which I really want to add more, which I really want to expand.
I really want one of those Touch Bar 16-inch MacBook Pros. I can't tell you how much I want one.
Well, I was thinking more PowerPC and early Intel Macs, but you know me.
Gosh, I wish they did not get rid of that Touch Bar. That was one of the most useful tools out there, and people refused to see it.
I'm honestly getting more used to not having a touch bar, and it's good that I'm not getting quite as used to it, because I'm not gonna have this touch bar unless I go through my Mac collection.
It's kind of... The thing is, I've been playing around in Xcode as of late because I'm working on a machine that I'm trying to control via my phone, so I'm trying to develop an app to do that. In some of the things, they actually have a function to help you write code to use the touch bar. So Apple,
Yes.
they were kind of pushing, hey, we have this cool touch bar thing, why don't you use it?
But Apple had to get rid of it, so
I
now
know. I'm so mad at them for that.
Maybe Apple will bring back the touch bar.
I really hope they do. Because I feel like I
fact,
can't do as much with these 12 keys than
maybe the
what I
next
could do with the
MacBook
touch
Pro.
bar.
Maybe the next MacBook Pro will come with a touch bar, and then I'll be mad.
I am going to scream at them until they bring it back.
If they bring back the Touch Bar, will you instantly buy the new MacBook Pro?
I'm already on the air about this. Every time I've mentioned this. If Apple were to create basically the same laptop I'm using but with the Touch Bar, the second it comes back, this MacBook Pro is being sold and the new one with the Touch Bar is coming in. That is already on record.
Yep.
So,
I just didn't know if you still felt that way.
Oh, getting rid of functionality like it's kind of another... Jeez, I need to shuffle around. I'm so tired of sitting in this chair. Ugh. Like, a bit of the way I feel with my XS Max. If Apple brings back the stuff I care about, and I don't want to say just make the XS Max all over again, but bring back the things that the XS Max got right, like 3D touch, a better designed camera, rounded edges. I know they're never going to bring glossy glass, but what is the difference between glossy and matte? Is there any functional difference?
No.
It's all aesthetic. So, who knows? Maybe we'll all go back to glossy glass at some point. It's just fashion or style trends at this point. But if they bring back some of the key things that is the reason why I keep using this phone, I'll buy it in a heartbeat. And it's the same case with my MacBook Pro. If they bring back... I mean, I never owned a Mac with the Touch Bar, so I never lost it in the first place. But if they ever bring back the Touch Bar, I'd also appreciate if they brought back... Like, I used to not think MagSafe... I used to think MagSafe was okay, but as I use the laptop more and more, especially with my Thunderbolt dock, I realize... This connector is pretty much useless. Just give me USB-C.
At least you have a USB-C on a new Mac. At least USB-C is an option, which is why I'll still probably use USB-C a ton on my new MacBook.
Yeah, like that's how my MacBook charges now because I plug it into the Thunderbolt dock all the time. Except when I'm on road trips, then I take this cable or... Actually, no, sometimes I'll take my Dell XPS charging brick and use that. So. But, yeah, it's... I was not... those were the two things that I were not happy about when Apple had upgraded this design for the MacBook Pro. Just the touch bar and the port selection. They got rid of a Thunderbolt port. I'm still not happy about that. And they added back two inferior ports we don't need. I've made the exception of the SD card slot at this point because too many... Most people buy Macs for cinematography and such like that, and they often involve SD cards. Fine, include an SD card on the MacBook Pro. I'm not going to be too mad about that. But HDMI, I never use that port. And we never should. We have a better standard.
There's USB-C and HDMI cables.
Yes. In fact, where is it? I have one around somewhere. Here it is. Let me introduce a novel concept to you guys. This is a cable. Here is one side of it. This is HDMI, the standard we're all familiar with. Now, this is the end that plugs into the monitor. I'm going to pull this cable between my fingers so that way you know this is the same cable. Alright, here's the end. Other end of it. Oh, would you look at that?
Wow, magic! I'm kidding because you mentioned that in your video, in one of your videos on collecting accessories back in January 2022.
Yep.
And in your videos.
Look at this! It's a USB-C port!
Yeah, it's a USB-C port for those listening and not watching.
Are you saying you can buy a cable with USB-C on one end and HDMI on the other?
I remember when you introduced that to Tabby at the start of TIFP, how and how he looked into it more.
Yeah. Now, this particular cable I have is capped out at 4K at 30 hertz because I really cheaped out on this. But at the time, the monitors I had were 1080p monitors. I couldn't even go up to 4K, so it did just fine. But you can get 4K 60 version of these. I'm pretty sure you can also get 4K 120.
So better options exist, people. And speaking of better options, want to move on to our next and final topic, which I'll just let you have the floor on this one.
Pretty much. Whew! I was not expecting what happened on Saturday to happen at all. So I uploaded, as of this recording today,
I watched it.
a video of my first experience driving an electric car. Well, not just one. I drove two. I probably should put in at the beginning that I didn't actually manage to get footage of me driving the cars. I just got footage of the cars themselves. That's because I didn't want to take the time to set up tripods and all that. And I also had somebody else in the car as well.
It's also not a great idea to film while you're on the road because that's more distracted driving.
Well, I just never look at the camera, so I keep it that simple. But the point is though, I probably should have prefaced that at the beginning. I don't have footage of me driving it, but I did actually get behind the wheels. I'm not lying in that regard, but. Yeah, I got my first experience behind the wheel of not one, but two electric cars. One of them, I am so shocked they let me behind the wheel of. The Blazer.
I saw those on Chevy's website.
Yeah. The new Blazer EV is out by now. But at this point, the only people who really have them are media outlets who get slightly early access to do some testing and make recommendations to consumers. Those are the only people that have them at the moment, to my knowledge. I'm just random Joe Schmo. I walk into an oil change appointment for Stardust. I noticed they had the Blazer on display, and I thought it was only on display because they had it parked not in an actual parking spot, but in more of a staged position right by the building just to show it off. And I was taking a look around it because it's the new Blazer and it's all electric. So I took a look around it and right before I walked in. So then I walked in and evidently one of the guys had noticed I took a lot of interest in that electric vehicle. And he grabbed the keys to it and we went for a spin. And I have to admit, I said this in my video. The closer I get to an electric car, the more and more reaffirmed my decision for wanting to buy an electric car is. It's so, and that I wouldn't even call this the best electric car you could buy, because as of right now, it's GM's Ultium platform. It's not scaling very well at the moment. They're very slow to ramp up production. Like, there's very few Cadillac Lyrics out there. The Blazer is just kind of starting to roll off the assembly line and into dealer lots. I'm still surprised that my dealer had one because we're in the middle of nowhere. But
to be fair, you are in Michigan where GM is headquartered, so...
Yeah, but I'm on like the complete opposite end of the state compared to where they're headquartered.
You're somewhat in their range. So imagine the dealers closest to Detroit probably get access to get the cars.
Yeah, probably. That might be the case because, like, you've seen the driving footage of the area. Our highways are basically back roads. But yeah, that happened. Is there anything in particular you want to know about it that I haven't addressed in my video? Or
No, no. I'm honestly at this. Your experience makes me want to buy. Makes me want to buy an EV more, since I know we don't actually know each other in real life and everything. But just hearing the experience of other people driving EVs makes me more and more excited to own an EV.
yeah, I hate reading all the articles that try to crap on them, because the truth is these people, they don't know what they're talking about. And the people who have gotten into quote unquote experience the EV, they know nothing about it. And because they know nothing about it, they're not going to handle either driving it properly or taking it to a charging station and dealing with all these things. Because they know nothing about it, the likelihood of them having a terrible experience is high. And it's because
It's like with
they just don't know.
Bendgate. It's like with Bendgate
Yeah.
and the iPhone 6.
And so, yeah, you do have to come in with a new perspective. That is something that I want to get my point across. You do have to come in to the idea of either driving an electric car and owning an electric car completely differently than you do with your gas car. And I think the reason why there's so much hate for it is because humans are simply creatures of habit. We are stubborn. We do not like change. And because you have to change the way you do things when it comes to operating and owning an EV, it's change. It's different. We're a creature of habit. That's totally not okay.
It's like how
And
it's
I think
like people that complain
that's what
about,
fuels most of the hate.
It's like people that complained about the iPhone when it first released, and even some of the
Precisely.
arguments that people, even some of the arguments against the Vision Pro, some of them are purely just hate for change.
I'm not saying that I hate the idea of Vision Pro. It's just I don't know what it is. I can't
Yeah,
figure out
it's
what it
not
is.
like-
That I
it's
want
not like
Apple to
those-
show me what it is.
It's not like those petty little complaints about, oh, this product is never going to succeed because it's $3,500. No, this product is never going to succeed because it's 2-hour battery life.
Yeah, that's those things like that. That's not my complaint. The reason why I hate on it Vision Pro so much is because I don't know how it works. I'm trying to figure out how it works, but I don't know how it works. I can't figure out how it works. And where the frustration comes in is Apple is not telling us, is not showing us how it works. And this is where some of that frustration comes in with the electric car as well. It's different. You do act. It's not as simple as get in car and, oh yeah, it's just like driving any other car that's ever existed. Like, have you heard of stick shift driving? Cars with a manual transmission?
Yep, and that sure sounds like it's different.
Yeah, you have to go into a car with a manual transmission with a different mindset than you do with an automatic, even.
And the same
these
thing
are
goes-
both gas car technology.
And the same thing goes with when going from automatic to gas, and we did it when going from manual to automatic. So therefore, guess what we can do? Humanity can do.
Yeah, we've seen some people figure it out. They've learned about it. Those who are open to learning something new, they figured out how the electric car works, and they realize there are so many benefits, and they find there's more benefits than cons, to the point where they don't want to go back to gas.
Yeah, gas is not. Gas cars don't. Gas cars are. I hate to say it, but gas cars are obsolete.
They're becoming, I won't say they're completely obsolete. They're still fun toys. Like there's a reason why we still have manual transmission cars, despite how unpopular of a choice that is.
It's like BlackBerry in 2010.
Yeah. So gas cars are kind of getting into a point where they're starting to become more enthusiast cars. While I do believe electric's going to take over for people looking for more practical options, because from what I've learned, the electric car is technically way more practical than a gas car. You've got more space because you don't have to make all that room for an engine, transmission, transfer cases, drive shafts. No, all that stuff is gone, which
And
gives
more
you so much
importantly,
more room.
the reason why America went to SUVs is because they wanted more space. But now with an EV, you already get more space in a sedan.
Yeah, I'd argue, especially if you drive electric, you don't need an SUV, because the same space thing that you're looking for in a gas SUV, all of that space translates to an electric sedan, because you now have the frunk. You now have this giant sub trunk. Like, you probably don't know this, but because you probably don't watch as much electric car content as I do, but if you open up the floor in the trunk of a Tesla Model 3, where you would typically find a spare tire, Tesla doesn't ship spare tires, but if you open that floor up, you'll get another space that's roughly 2/3 the size of the main trunk underneath that floorboard.
That's That's incredible for good. That's more. That's more space than most gas SUVs.
And you also have the frunk, because again, no engine.
It makes so much practical sense to buy an EV.
Yeah. Anyone who believes sedans aren't practical at all, especially if you go electric, Talos of EV, he made a short where he went on a road trip, and one of his objectives on that trip was he completely overpacked. He stuffed the Model 3 that he has with more things than he honestly needed. He just stuffed it just for the sake of showing how much you could haul in that car. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. The amount of stuff he pulled out probably would have completely filled up a Chevy Equinox.
It's the fact that people still want. It's just I don't know why people want SUVs anymore.
I don't either, especially because a lot of SUVs seem to have, like, there's two main arguments that I am constantly hearing. The first one, cargo space. And depending on the one you buy, that is true. You can get more cargo space in an SUV compared to a sedan, especially if you're looking for height.
Yeah.
But I found that the majority of them out there are less practical cargo-wise, because say you go grocery shopping. I don't know about you, but do you like the idea of stacking groceries on top of each other?
No.
No, I don't either. And that's a big limitation with a lot of crossovers and SUVs. The majority of their trunks, they're not all of them, but the majority of them actually have less floor area than my sedan does.
And my dad's M6, mind you, an M6, which is literally a sports car infamous for being tiny. It has so much room in the trunk that there's no need to stack groceries.
Yeah,
and my dad even uses
and this is a common issue in crossovers and SUVs.
My dad even uses the trunk of his car to store, and my car too, which is also a sedan, to store Christmas presents. So now I can't go into the trunk of my own car.
Yeah, so there's that, but I suppose there's a third argument that they'll use, and I always try to point out going to a different option. The second argument, SUVs offer a third row.
Minivans are more practical for that.
Exactly, that's what I tell them every single time. If you need a vehicle with a third row, get a minivan. Because the majority of 3-row crossovers and SUVs, there is no room for your stuff. You can fit everyone in there, but there's no room for your stuff.
And people carry stuff.
Unless you're shoving it between the seats and everyone's legs. Or it's resting on laps. No, there is no room for your stuff if you fill the entire vehicle with passengers. Buy a minivan if you need a 3-row vehicle. I tell people that all the time.
I actually talked to my grandmother about this, and she stated that her biggest reason for why many people are buying SUVs is because the older population has realized that more SUVs are a bit easier to get in and out of, but
that is my final reason. Seating position and ride height. This is the reason why my grandparents had completely switched from driving sedans to, well, they used to have 2 SUVs, but they replaced one of them with a truck now at this point. But the reason why they switched from sedans to crossovers and SUVs is because my grandpa's back just can't, it will not let him fall into a sedan seat anymore and let him get out. It literally hurts him to do that.
But because there's so much more room, especially in Tesla sedans, that you can, and mind you, they make SUVs too. You can just raise the height.
True, some vehicles will offer air suspension, and I'm pretty sure some luxury vehicles will. I know, like in the big SUVs and trucks, if they have air suspension, there's a setting you can turn on where it lowers the vehicle so short people can have an easier time getting in. I really think that other automakers with air suspension, especially in their sedans, should have a setting that raises the vehicle so people who are tall can get in much easier.
That would help. You know who that would help?
Oh yeah. That would help so many people out there. That would also help you because you're 6'3".
Yes.
How are you that tall? Goodness gracious.
Genetics.
I mean, I gotta ask, do you find it a bit of a problem getting into your car?
It depends. So, no, I do not have a problem getting into my own car. I can get in and out. I can get in and out of the front seats of my car with no problem. The back seats might be just a tiny bit more of a struggle, but I can still do it with ease. Mm-hmm. However, my dad's car, the only time I might experience a little bit more trouble getting to the front seat is if I'm coming home this will become less of an issue because once I start driving to and from school, I'll just place my backpack in the passenger seat or back seat, but oftentimes whenever my dad picks me up from school and I'm wearing my backpack as I put it on, then I have a little more trouble though. Then I've had a little more trouble. Now most of the time, when I'm coming home, I usually just place my backpack on the floor.
Mm-hmm. So,
but
it doesn't sound like it's that big of an issue, though.
My dad's M6. Now, my dad's M6 is a little more of an issue because, especially the back seat, though, no one has an easy time in the back seat of an M car, anyways.
No.
But the front seat, it's okay. I mean, it's okay as long as I don't have a backpack. But it's okay. It's still not it's not 100% easy, but it's not, especially with the seating position, but it's not terrible either.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my biggest problem is that I just don't like how low BMW sedans are, or at least how they used to be.
You probably wouldn't like my car either because Stardust is so low. Like, whenever I go to that charging station downtown, it's on that parking deck. It's a steep curb, and I always scrape the bumper every single time.
Yeah, my car is raised up decently, so that way I Yeah, my car is so much higher than than my dad's M6 that I can not only feel that I can look up and see everything, and if even if that's a problem, then my mom's GLS 350 fixes all those problems, making you feel like you're
Yeah.
on top of the world when you're in that when you're in king of the world when you're in that car.
Yeah, that's one of everyone's favorite reasons for buying a crossover. You're sitting higher, you're the king of the road. I don't understand where that feeling comes from. And personally, I hate the higher I set up. I want to get as low to the ground as possible.
I prefer. I love sitting up high. I love to sit up high personally, but that's just. But even then, I'm already sitting up relatively high anyway, just because I'm tall. So
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of put the guy who was riding with me during that test drive, I put him in shock when he had this. I think he rose the seat up extremely high because he noticed I'm short. So I think he intentionally rose it high so I can see better above. I think I shocked him when I basically put that seat all the way to the bottom of the floor. Because, again, I'm short.
yes, people misunderstand my height preference. It's actually a bigger issue that I've had with cars because my mom doesn't think I can fit in the backseat of my own car very easily.
Oh, most people, especially your height, can fit in the back seat of sedans.
Yeah, I can. Now, my dad's M6 is more of a problem, but it's not. But it's a sports car.
Yeah, that's a BMW issue.
But the
that's a general
the
BMW issue.
The backseat of my Mercedes, though, perfectly, I can fit in perfectly without no issues. In the front seat, I still have over a foot of clearance, whereas in my aunt's Hyundai, I believe Elantra, I can only grow like 1 or 2 more inches in the front it's a coupe, but I can only grow 1 or 2 more inches in the front seat before I can't ride in that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the biggest reasons why people will buy crossovers and SUVs. That's cargo space. Again, it's kind of defeated if you're doing grocery shopping and road trips. Third row, again, buy a minivan.
Once you're buying a Tesla,
sitting up higher, king of the road feel. Yeah, Tesla. Like the biggest reason why you should buy the Model Y, in my opinion, is if you really prefer that higher ride height or something like that. I can't change people's opinions on that. It's really a personal preference thing. Me,
the Model Y is
I want to get
that.
as low to the ground as possible. That's me. And the Model 3 definitely will get you as low to the ground as possible. That, and I just prefer sedans over crossovers in general. Model Y, sure, it has about, I believe measured, it's about 4 times the cargo space as the Model 3. Don't quote me on that, but it's... They really changed the dimensions of that thing, and you can fit so much more in a Model Y. But again, the Model Y is more expensive. You can still fit a ton of crap in the Model 3 to the point where you'd really have to have an overpacking problem in order to completely fill a Model 3. And in my opinion, the only reason why you should get the Model Y is really just if you need that ride height, or I suppose maybe towing too. If you want a tow hitch.
To be fair, buy a Cybertruck. If you should maybe buy a Cybertruck if you want the towing.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get the ultimate towing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll definitely get that king of the road feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'll also get people looking at you. Everybody looking at you on the road, probably.
I wonder how long it's going to be before someone up here buys a Cybertruck.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see a Cybertruck in person.
I hate how I'm somewhere in the middle between being excited for it and not. And the reasons why I'm excited for it and not excited for it are the complete opposite of everyone else's reasons. I was excited about the specs. I was expecting much worse when they've officially announced pricing and range on that. Everyone else was disappointed. All the Tesla fanboys, everyone, they were all crapping on Tesla about how the Cybertruck doesn't go 500 miles on a charge and it costs almost $100,000 for
Again,
a tri-motor and such. It's more expensive.
That's ignorance.
Now, some of these people have not followed Tesla for a long time and probably only got into Tesla because they saw the Cybertruck. But for some of us, like yours truly, who has been following them for quite a while, would know that when they first announced the idea of the vehicle, the specs that they announce are not going to be the specs that they deliver upon. So I was fully expecting much worse when I saw the leaks. I was expecting, okay, the Cybertruck's not going to have this amazing of specs because I'm focusing on reality. This is a big vehicle. How the heck are you going to get this thing that efficient? It's just not possible.
But they did. But they made it better.
Yeah. I mean, the range figures were actually right on par. I was guessing right around where the range figures were at. But the pricing, I was expecting it was going to be way higher. And it was purely based on demand. This is something that I have to tell everyone all the time. Tesla does not price their vehicles based off of what it costs to build them and how much they think it's worth. It's all based on this simple economics concept. Supply and demand. That's what it's based off of. And obviously, especially before the Cybertruck delivery event, the demand was so huge.
Everybody wants.
I mean, obviously, this is America. Yeah, this is America. Everyone's got to have a big truck. So, yeah, of course the orders were through the roof. And this was a brand new vehicle with a manufacturing process Tesla had no clue how to even get started on. I was expecting this pricing to be through the roof. And yet, $80,000? And keep in mind, that's qualifying for the tax credit, as much as I hate it. I was shocked to see that price. I was genuinely shocked to see that price. And I was very pleasantly pleased.
I just had to get one of my cats out of the room. So
yeah, I was really impressed with the specs and everything that Tesla has announced with it. But the reason why I'm not excited for it is because, again, it's a big truck. It's huge. It's oversized.
At least it has.
It's actually only slightly smaller than its competition, but not by much.
The only benefit, at least the Tesla Cybertruck has the power, unlike other pickup trucks that are just big for the glory of being big.
And inefficient and gas guzzling and such.
That's why my dad isn't a big fan. That's why my dad loves the Cybertruck, but not of how other pickup trucks are getting too big.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the reason why pickup trucks have gotten big isn't because America has demanded it. It's because fuel regulators have demanded it.
Yes, fuel
ironically, you'd think. Yeah, ironically, you think the efficiency people who regulate fuel economy and fuel consumption, you'd think that the vehicles should be smaller and more efficient. But because of their policies...
Bigger vehicles are exempt.
Yeah, they've exempted bigger vehicles.
And you know why most American car manufacturers car companies, have wiped out almost their entire sedan lineup. It's
Well, actually,
because of the fuel
Well,
regulations.
it's sedans didn't go away because of fuel regulations. Like
Well, they
sedans
got
are actually extremely efficient, especially when you buy the
well,
smaller sedans. They're
well,
they're,
they went
they're
away because they
incredible.
wanted to make more money off of it. So naturally, they went to bigger vehicles because of demand.
Yeah,
You
they
can
went
tell
to
how
bigger vehicles, crossovers and SUVs. They took over sedans because, well, evidently that's what the market wanted.
and
But
this is
yeah, big trucks. It's all because of fuel. It's all because of the EPA and such.
and
It's terrible.
the war. And one way that you know this is how this is the American fuel regulators' problem is that most foreign car companies too they don't really advertise their sedans anymore on TV. Heck,
I find it to
Toyota.
be a total shame.
Every Toyota you see advertised on TV, which is a Japanese company, mind you, is either a Forerunner or else one of their other SUVs or the big Tundra, because apparently the Tacoma doesn't matter anymore because they all got to be big vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, smaller trucks are starting to make a comeback.
In fact, of my dad's top choices for pickup trucks, he didn't even consider in his top 5 choices a Tundra was not even on the option. He would just rather have a Tacoma if he couldn't have an F-150 or a Ranger.
Yeah, honestly, two of the most fascinating trucks that I've seen out there, gas-wise, are the Ford Maverick.
The Ford Maverick is such an interesting truck. It's just and my aunt is actually interested in the Ford Maverick, but she can't find them anywhere. So
Yeah, they sell out fast.
yeah,
There is a
I actually
demand
see-
for that truck.
I actually see a few Mavericks around my city.
Oh, they're all over town here. I see them all the time.
The Maverick is a cheap, small pickup truck, and more importantly, some of them are hybrids, so it helps promote the EV movement to people who aren't entirely ready to go full electric yet.
Yeah, so yeah, Ford Maverick. That is, I mean, I could never own one because of Ford's seat engineers, but it's a truck that impresses me, and I'm glad that it's popular and is giving a big middle finger to the F-150.
Around my city, it's mostly still F-150s that are around, but I live
Oh
in a
yeah,
more
same
rural
here,
s-
but
I live in a
I'm
more rural
I'm starting to
southern
slowly
area.
see Mavericks replace them.
I live in a more rural southern area, so naturally I live so naturally I live where bigger trucks matter a little more. But I see a lot of Rangers around.
I see
Not
more
quite.
Mavericks than Rangers.
I see it, but and so smaller pickups are making a big come. I never used to see a Chevy Colorado before, but now I've seen 2 of them in my area, and there's probably more.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the majority of the Chevy trucks are still Silverados.
Yeah, but
And then is the GMC Canyon GMC smaller pickup?
yep. Colorado and
I've seen-
Canyon are siblings.
I've seen more Canyons around too.
Oh yeah.
Now, granted, they're not quite as big as the. Now, granted, the majority of GMC trucks I still see are Sierras, but
Yeah.
just goes to show
But
you.
yeah, their smaller products are their sales have been increasing.
And the
Yep,
Chevy
small
Malibu.
trucks are making a comeback.
I'm
And
honest.
then the other truck that I've also found a lot of interest in, and this is not exactly marketed as hard working and such, it's more like a city truck. Have you heard of the Hyundai Santa Cruz?
I've seen there's one around in my area.
Same here. I actually saw one drive past me on the way to work
And
today.
I don't like the design of it, and I hate Hyundai so much that I would never buy one. But why do you want it?
Well, it's more basically what they did was they took a Hyundai Tucson. Yeah, they took a Hyundai Tucson, ripped off the trunk of it essentially and put a bed right where the trunk used to be.
That's actually pretty close. I hope this gives more means for other car companies that make SUVs but not trucks to start making trucks, like pickup trucks. Like, I know German automakers will probably not do this since this isn't for the American auto market, since they're not an American company, since Europe is not a truck, because Germany is not a truck-based culture. But what if BMW made a pickup truck?
It'd probably be one of the fastest, best handling, performing pickups out there due to BMW's nature.
And more, and what if BMW made an M version of the pickup truck? It'd be expensive, but people who really wanted big, powerful pickups would buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And more importantly, a Mercedes pickup. Mercedes makes trucks. They make commercial.
They do. Well, that and I'd consider the G-Wagon to be, I believe it's still body on frame?
Yeah.
You know the G-Wagon, the $100,000 boxy SUV?
Yeah, I've seen. I think we have a few similar. We've had two similar Mercedes, so yeah.
So, yeah, I believe those are still truck-based SUVs, body on frame.
So they could easily make like my mom's GLS 450. If they ripped the bed off of that and just if they ripped the trunk off that and just made that a pickup, that'd be the biggest pickup in town.
Yep. I'm pretty sure the reason why the Germans don't get into it is because they first serve the European market first, which there's some pickups there, but for the most part they're just for commercial use.
Most people don't even drive their own cars in Europe, so
yeah, there's a whole bunch of people who don't own a car there and use public transportation because it works there.
Doesn't here.
Yeah, it does not work here. It's why I don't believe robo-taxis are the future.
Let me look up the Hyundai Santa Cruz because I'm actually curious about it now.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's an ugly-looking truck too, but the concept of what it's supposed to be is interesting. It's supposed to be a car-like experience, but in the form of a pickup truck. First time I really figured out what the Santa Cruz was supposed to be, I was watching an out-of-spec video where they were testing out the driver assistance systems, which it did not do too well in.
It was probably ripped off of a Santa Fe if they called it the Santa Cruz, but it's still not
It has
bad.
the Tucson's interior, though.
Well, maybe they ripped it off a Tucson. And more importantly, this gives so much more means for other automakers to rip off that makes SUVs, to rip off the pickup, rip off the beds, or rip off the trunks. Like, what if Tesla ripped off the third row of the Model Y and made it a pickup? What if Chevy took all the cross?
Have you heard of Truckla?
Yes. Somebody
Simone
did that.
Gertz?
Yep, she did that.
That is so freaking cool. That modification she did. She turned her Tesla Model 3 essentially into a pickup truck.
And Chevy turning all their 3-row crossovers into pickups with that method. People could have tiny clown pickups. Clowns would drive pickup trucks for the first time.
America and their obsession with pickups. I mean, hey, they've got some practicality. Though I'd still prefer the sedan because it's the form factor that makes most sense for me.
Same.
I really wish they would make a comeback here in the United States and that people would get over this obsession for needing these big, humongous vehicles. Look, there are some times when bigger is better. I say that with screen real estate. Bigger screen equals better.
Yes,
you can do so much more with a bigger screen.
With my MacBook, it's perfect to have a bigger screen because I don't take my MacBook as many places, but with my phone, I want the smaller phone. But with my Apple Watch, I want a bigger screen because I have fat fingers.
That and the watch is so tiny, you want as much screen as possible to read it.
Yeah.
And same with desktop monitors. You go big or go home. Especially with desktop monitors. The point of having a desktop monitor is to have a huge display, is it not?
I don't know.
I don't know why you'd want to go smaller except to save money. But, yeah, there are some instances where, bigger is better. But
not as the
our
norm.
Vehicles have gotten to the point, they've gotten so big, it's not better anymore.
And the thing that most people gloss over with sedans is that SUV. There's two things. Number one, a lot of times families will use SUVs to travel with their kids. Now, keep this in mind: the average family only has 2 kids, and most of the time. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, the parents are not together. Therefore, it's not that many people in the car. So, I wish that trend would stop, but that's not. But meanwhile, you don't have enough people to warrant an SUV. And the people who think that minivans are...
There's a reason why the majority of the time, especially after I bought my car, we almost... As long as we can fit all of our stuff in our trunk, and we're not bringing a massive load home with us, we will always take my car over the Yukon now.
Because it's the best. You have the best car in the family.
I do. And it's not just because it's the new fancy car with all the bells and whistles and the comfort features and all that. No. The biggest reason why is because we can fit all of our stuff in it because we don't need this huge honking SUV with us all the time. We know how to pack efficiently. We know the essentials we need to take. We know the things we can leave behind because, well, we just don't need them. Bringing them is just kind of unnecessary. We know how to pack the car up, even to the point where there's still room in the trunk where if we bring souvenirs home with us, we can still fit it with us. And we don't need a third row because we don't have enough people to warrant it.
And SUVs are a bit... And another reason for SUVs is that SUVs are just not... Is that why people go for SUVs over minivans is that SUVs are so cool. However, here's my argument on that. If SUVs are so cool, how come everybody owns an SUV? And you know what happens if something gets more common?
It becomes much less cool. Like, would you argue iPhones have kind of become slightly less cool because so many people have them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit this myself. I don't necessarily think this is the cool option. But I use it because I think it's the best product out there and it does everything I need it to. So, no, it's not the cool option. It doesn't have a fancy stylus that pops out of it to do note-taking and such. Or it doesn't fold. It doesn't have a foldable display. So, no, it's not the coolest option, but it's the most practical one.
And the fact is that SUVs just kind of look like... And another point I wanted to bring out about SUVs is that a lot of times people are not good drivers. And if people are bad drivers...
SUVs do not help that.
Because SUVs are bigger, but SUVs also... They're bigger, so therefore you can do a lot more damage if you have a bigger vehicle and you're a bad driver.
I'm trying to remember what the statistic was, but basically somebody pointed out the year when pickup trucks started to get bigger because of the regulations, the amount of pedestrian deaths have just completely skyrocketed. Some would call it a coincidence. I think not.
It's not.
So, yeah, bigger does not always equal better. I, big vehicles are also harder to park.
Oh, yes, I understand that.
Yep. And I bought the biggest sedan in its class. You cannot get bigger than that. I've searched the internet. You cannot find another luxury, semi-luxury sedan bigger than the Buick LaCrosse. You cannot find anything bigger.
It's a big car.
Yeah, it is. And when you park that thing, oh, it feels really big. So, yeah, again, bigger's not always better. And I told myself I was not going to, back when I didn't even have a car, I told myself I'm not going to buy a big sedan. I wanted a sedan, but not a big one. And what did I buy? I bought a big sedan. Okay, I got a big sedan. I told myself, okay, next car I get, it's not going to be another big sedan. And I bought the biggest one in its class.
Why did you buy the biggest sedan in its class?
Because that was what was on the dealer lot, and that's what I could afford. So, well, I believe they had a no. The Malibu was already sold. Nope. That and I prefer the LaCrosse over the Malibu. So, yeah.
Yeah, the LaCrosse is a pretty nice vehicle.
It genuinely, I can't believe how truly impressed I am with that vehicle. Like, compared to my experience test driving that car and then getting back into Red Fox, the first time I test drive Stardust and then I get back into Red Fox going home, I'm like, oh my gosh, I flippin' hate my car. I hate my car so much. I want to get back in that LaCrosse. And Saturday, I test drove 2 electric cars, and I did feel a little bad going back into my car because, again, the closer I get to an electric car, the more affirmed that, yes, that is the car I want. I did feel kind of bad about the car I owned, but definitely nowhere near as bad as when I still owned Red Fox. I mentioned I sold her, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't own Red Fox anymore. She's still in the driveway because my parents basically bought it, but sadly that car is never going back on the road. The reason why my parents bought it was because they're harvesting the transmission from it. So, yeah, Buick Lucerne's a common problem they have, the transmissions. They're not good.
That was a similar issue of your car.
The transmission was never an issue for me. My issue was
you had so many
things like wheel bearings. Yeah, my issues were like wheel bearings. My alternator died.
I'll remember
gas
that.
leak. Oh yeah.
Remember that.
The engine belt snapped. The accessory belt snapped.
I think I remember that.
That was in my January hell video.
Oh, I remember that video.
Oh, yeah. That was not a fun video to make. So, yeah, there's more issues that I can't... Oh, right, the brake seized on me. I've had brake seizure happen on that car. And it resulted in me getting stranded to the point where I had to call for help. That car was not reliable. Oh boy, am I glad that I have not had issues like that with Stardust.
That's why it probably won't happen too soon, but that's why I eventually want to trade. That's why I want to trade in my Mercedes eventually for a far newer car, so that way I don't have to deal with the issues going down the road that old cars have.
Yeah, and a sad thing about Mercedes is because they're a luxury car, there's more that can go wrong with it, unfortunately. And the parts to fix it are more expensive.
Yep, I understand. My dad had to take back in the fall of 2022. My dad had to take in my Mercedes, now my Mercedes, back when it was his car for quite a while to get something on it fixed. So that makes me a little nervous for that makes me. It's been fine ever since, but that makes me a little more nervous for the future of my car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't blame you for that because what year is it? 2012?
14.
Oh, 2014. So, yeah, next year it's turning 10 years old and
Or
that's
it's already
I've
10 years old
consistently
based on model
found
year.
yeah, that I've consistently found that as cars approach the 10-year mark, that's when the bad engineering really starts to show. That's when things are going to start wearing out. So, I've consistently found that my car has turned about 5 years old not too long ago. So I'm
Ways to
I'm
go.
also concerned reliability wise with Stardust because again the downside with hybrids now you have both an electrical system and a gas powertrain to worry about and take care
That's
of.
why I'm never gonna buy That's why I'm never gonna buy a hybrid. And I'll only buy either full gas or full electric. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't need that. Because I don't need baby steps into EVs.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't need it either. I was all ready to jump in. It's
But
just
you
the
just
reason
didn't
why
have
I
the
haven't
money.
completely jumped in is logistical reasons. Like, I can't charge here at home. I just can't.
My logistical reason is that well, first of all, I'm not only 15, so I that consequently means I have barely any money, but it also means that technically legally I can't own any cars, so I have to choose whatever my parents pick for me. And my dad's not against the electric cars, but my dad
Well, you
also
could actually own it. You just can't register it and drive it.
but my dad wouldn't but my dad also wants but the main reasons why my parents are okay with me keeping my current car is because it is technically going to be the best car at my high school, so at least in
Yeah.
terms of students'
You
cars.
can't argue with
No,
Mercedes. You can't
and it'll
argue
be
with
a
that
lot better.
badge.
And it'll be a lot better than it's going to be a lot better and a lot more reliable than all the other kids' cars.
Yeah, they're
So I'm at
probably
least
gonna a lot of half of your classmates are probably gonna buy old, beat up, rusted out trucks. Maybe not rusted out because we have
I
all the
know one of
salt
my
up here, but
I know one of my classmates wants to get a beat up old Chevy truck.
uh if he's listening to this show, which I highly doubt it, no you don't.
I tried
Yeah,
telling him.
especially if you buy a car, do not buy it from up here. In fact, I would actually strongly recommend people never buy your car from up here, especially if it's a used one. New one, okay, it's off the factory. But if you're buying a used vehicle, do not buy one that's been from up here.
Yeah, my car was from yeah my car. All most of the cars in our most of the cars from our family, except for my mom's now, have been from up north.
Oh dear.
My car is
Yeah, just
not
keep.
from. I don't know how far
j-
north my car is, since my car is from Indiana.
Kind of on the borderline. The key thing you want to look out for is states that are constantly salting the roads. And obviously, living here in Michigan, um, yeah, salt is just constantly poured on the road. I gotta get my car through the car wash at some point. That thing is coated in salt.
At least the benefit that I have is that because my dad has owned that car for now almost 3 years, any issues that would have had from being up north would have probably already been taken care of.
Most likely, but Yeah, the joys of used cars. I am
At
so
least I
glad I
know
got
exactly.
rid of Red Fox.
At least I know the history, the what my car was used for in the past few years before I bought it, I
Hmm.
didn't buy it, but before I got it,
Hmm.
because I drove in it,
Yeah.
because I rode in it.
Yeah, my car on the other, both of my cars, my parents have never owned. I was the one who paid for them both. Bought Red Fox for $1,000 off of someone from Craigslist, and second one's from a dealership. Despite that, I still think I overpaid for my car, especially when you compared it to similar offerings on the site. I'm so happy with Stardust. She's the biggest thing that I'm trying to ask from my car now is, can you get me from point A to point B without anything breaking? And so far, it's done that perfectly fine.
My car
And
has done
I've
that really
discovered I
well
can have fun
too.
in that thing. Yeah, I've discovered I can have fun in that thing. You'd think for a big luxury vehicle, it's designed for comfort and not really that much fun, but the beauty of the third gen lacrosse, which is what that car is, GM at the time really wanted to pitch Buick as they wanted to change the target from your grandparents' car to a more youthful, younger buyer. And as a result, they changed the way the chassis performs. And you can actually have a little bit of fun in that car if you try.
Yeah, that's well.
It's genuinely surprised me. It's fun.
That the same thing
And also, it
surprises
being
my.
a hybrid, it being a hybrid, you think this powertrain is optimized for pure efficiency.
Nope.
No. Oh,
My
if you
dad.
floor that, you still spin tires.
My dad has a car. My dad's car. My dad intentionally bought his M6 because he wanted to have a car that could go really fast, but didn't look like it could go fast at all. Because he wanted to surprise drivers of other race cars, like Corvettes that clearly identify as race cars.
I, for the first time last week, have experience. Yeah, this happened on my test drive in the Chevy Bolt. Got stopped by the red traffic light. Up in the other lane on M26 comes uh, a pickup truck, old rusted pickup truck, and the drivers who drive those things. Those are the people who are anti EV and are like, look at me, I'm driving this big badass truck and such. So obviously, I'm here in this Chevy Bolt, and here's this guy, and I'm doing a 0 to 60 because one of the reasons why I wanted to test it out is get a feel for the electric car's acceleration. So I wasn't intentionally trying to drag race that guy. I, it was not. It was not intentional at all. But I floored it in the Chevy Bolt, and I still beat the pickup truck. I thought that was funny.
Oh,
He was not happy about that.
my grandmother once in her Jeep Grand Cherokee wanted to try to drag race two motorcyclists who had their big engines going because she knew that she just surprised them.
Yep. Yeah. Just again, I've kept saying electric really is the future. Now that I've driven not one but two cars, the new Chevy Blazer and the Chevy Bolt,
It's time to go EV.
that is the actual future. And I found it funny how the guy who was doing the test drive with me, he's a fireman.
What does that have to do
You
with
know
this
the
podcast?
Yeah, the latest FUD with EVs right now is, oh, they catch on fire all the time.
Oh, but he's a fireman.
I asked his thoughts about that. He knows that, again, these are actual statistics online. First of all, your chances of an electric car catching on fire like that are like a very small fraction of the amount of gas cars that catch fire.
Because gas cars are literally combustion engine cars.
There's literal explosions happening. There's thousands of these explosions happening in your car every minute. So, yeah, of course, the combustion vehicle is more likely to explode. So he knew that statistic, but I also asked him, in the event that an electric car does catch fire, what are your thoughts on that? And he's fully confident on and fully understands how to put these things out, how to deal with it. And he's told me, here's the training he has. Yeah, here's the training he has in regards to that. Thermal runaway, which will happen to a battery if that's what catches on fire. The way you put it out is you choke it. You don't splash it with water and try to cool it down. That doesn't work. What you do is you get dirt and you choke it. The smoke will choke out the flames and it will smother it out.
That's what you do it's an electrical fire. Therefore, you have to treat it like an electrical fire and cut it off at source.
Yeah, there's three things they're not the option. One, if one's missing, you don't get fire. Fuel, which is basically the car itself. Heat, which the battery pack creates itself. Oxygen. If one of those is missing, the fire goes out. And pouring dirt on it deprives the fire of its oxygen. So it can build up as much heat as it wants to. It can't burn because there's no oxygen.
That's shocking.
And this is a member of the fire department of, not my town, a town next door actually, but he's like, yeah, I know how to handle this. I'm not worried about it. And I just found it interesting how he was a fireman. And I asked him about the whole EV battery fire thing, and yeah, it didn't even faze him.
I wonder if my local firemen have been trained to treat EV battery fires.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know
either.
because I don't live where you live, but yeah, I just found that so interesting. How the guy who was evidently, he knows if I recall, I believe he knew the most about the Blazer and the Bolt. He's handled most of the sales for electric cars, so I found it interesting how he knew all this much information. And evidently, I think I still knew a bit more about this. I probably surprised everyone at the dealership how much I knew about electric cars and everything related to them. I think enough to the point where they have my phone number because I bought my car from them. But I think they said that if they ever get more electric cars in stock, say the new Equinox, or whenever the Silverado and Sierra EVs come, or any other future electric vehicles, I'm getting a phone call.
Exciting.
It is. I can't tell you how exciting that is, because, yeah, I surprised the guy with how much I knew about electric cars. So, yeah, the one thing I wished I did with the cars that I was able to test drive, I wanted to take it to the charge point station and actually test plugging in a CCS vehicle, because they're both CCS vehicles. No one switched to NACS yet, obviously, but
except for Tesla, because they didn't switch.
Well, yeah, Tesla's always had it. So, but yeah, I wanted to see what that experience was like, and I even told them I'm paying for the electricity. I have a charge point account all set up, but Nope, they wouldn't let me do that, and I think that's because they want more training on the cars. Yet they said the Blazer, they just got that in stock. It came in very recently, probably came in last week. So, yeah, the guy didn't know entirely everything about the Blazer, and I guess they just didn't want me to test charging it yet. Despite that, it was actually at around 50% state of charge. I wanted to see what it would have done around that because I hear GM cars charge very weirdly. So I wanted to see what would happen, but oh well. But yeah, the one thing left that I wanted to talk about from this experience is a little bit of a guilty debate I keep having in my head.
Should you buy a Bolt?
Was buying Stardust the right choice?
I think Stardust was the right choice.
I do too, and it's because I have to remember the logistical issues that I'd still have with an electric car. But I ran through the numbers, and technically, despite that the Bolt they had on the lot was listed for 30 grand, the tax credit would have brought it down to 23 grand, which is cheaper than what I paid for Stardust.
Do you think it's too... Well, never mind. But do you think if... Now, this is a bit crazy, but once GM goes to NACS, do you think you could manage to trade in Stardust for one of their new EVs? I know they won't have the Bolt, but if they have something similar that's affordable.
Oh, by the time the vehicles will have NACS built in, the Bolt should be back. If my understanding of their timelines are correct.
Hold up, I have an idea. You should wait until the NACS connector comes out on the Chevy Bolt, and then trade in Stardust for a new Bolt. As if it's good enough, you could maybe stick with GM EVs and still stick to the same company you've grown up to love, or you and your family.
Well, I don't love everything they do, and also like they're getting rid of Apple CarPlay and such. I mean, Tesla doesn't have it either, but their software's way better than GM's Altium software.
I haven't seen Apple. The Chevy Trax still has Apple CarPlay. I haven't seen anything about them getting.
Yeah, it does. But they said moving forward with their new electric vehicles, they're going to discontinue support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Which, by the way, I asked everyone in the dealership what they thought about that decision. Everybody hated it.
Oh, I hate that.
They all disagreed with it.
In fact, that's why I want to have CarPlay in my car so bad, despite not having it, is because I want CarPlay. I want to be able to use an Apple UI in my car, and that's not too much to ask for.
Yeah, I know. That's one of the biggest reasons why I want it in a Tesla too. But the reason why I understand why they don't have it is because, seriously, like people on Twitter, not everyone actually understands this. Tesla is the current leader in software development for a car. And I'm not talking FSD or self-driving or anything. I'm talking infotainment and connectivity.
They're good at it.
Tesla is the leader.
My Mercedes has such a crappy infotainment system where the Bluetooth barely lags behind and doesn't like to connect to phones, to the point where and it doesn't work with USB either, to a point where I have to get it needs a new infotainment system. And my dad's BMW M6, Bluetooth also is very, very stubborn on it, so half the time we have to plug in devices with USB. And even then, I noticed a sudden issue that's been appearing in my dad's M6.
But yeah, my point is...
Albums.
Oh, the album cover things?
Songs haven't been updating to show what's currently playing.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, but as the reason why Tesla software is so great is because they pay attention to those details. Like, for one, they don't waste your time with the home screen. It's literally set up where you have and this is in the case of Model 3 and Model Y, the most common models you'll find out there. To the left, you'll have basically all of the things you typically see in the gauge cluster, like your speed, your indicator lights, current vehicle status, and such like that. Things that you typically see in a gauge cluster. Everything else to the right of that, literally the default home screen, if that's what you want to call it, it's Google Maps.
That's so handy, so that way you can always know where you're going.
Yeah, and when a notification pops up, like say you want to change the radio station, there's kind of like a Mac OS taskbar or Windows taskbar. They have a taskbar at the bottom with controls that you'll frequently operate, like climate and such, and then heated seat controls as well. And then also right there, you'll have your most frequently used apps that you can set as favorites. So if you stream Apple Music in the car all the time, you can pin that to that taskbar. And when you open it, you hit Apple Music. It brings up kind of like a window that you see on Mac OS or Windows. And you can mess with whatever you need to mess with, change the song, start playing this playlist, shuffle songs. Then once you're done with it, just swipe it away and you're back to the map.
That's so much. You have to have good, fluid, and fast infotainment systems in cars because if you don't have good infotainment systems in cars, that takes your eyes off the road, and you know what taking your eyes
that's
off
another
the road
important
leads
thing.
to.
Yeah, like that's another reason why I prefer touchscreens over BMWs and Mercedes and Audi's approach back before the majority of them are now switching to touchscreen at this point. It's like pushing a button. It's a software button instead of a hard button. It's something that we're all used to from our old cars. And with Tesla, they put in... I don't remember exactly when they did. I think it was 2022. They switched away from using Intel chips to AMD chips. And all of a sudden, the infotainment system fluidity is like, oh my goodness, this is so smooth. I don't even think about it. I'm not waiting on the system. The system's waiting on me. Which is exactly how it should be.
Again, goes to show you how Intel sucks and why I'm so glad to be getting rid of Intel.
Yes. So, yeah, Tesla gets software right. And that is still ultimately one of the reasons why I'm going to go with them. Despite that, yeah, I've been buying GM products, and I'm not against GM in any way. I've owned 2 GM products. My family has owned GM products for how long now? I have nothing against them. It's just there's a few things that they're doing that inconvenience me as a driver, and yeah, there are things that Tesla does that inconvenience me as a driver, like now I gotta look to the center display to see the speed limit unless I buy a Model S.
That would annoy. In fact, if I were to buy a Tesla, if they didn't fix that in the Model 3, I would have to go for the Model S because it drives me insane if I can't see the speed, if I have to look over.
Well, here's my impression with the screen, and I'm going to give it a chance. I've been pessimistic about this because I haven't owned a car, but I've driven a car where the gauge cluster was actually in the center of the vehicle instead of directly in the driver's line of sight. That's why I have judgment against this. But the reason why I'm reserving judgment is when I rode in the Model Y for the first time, the display is actually really high up. And I think it's higher up so that way you can see the corners. And Tesla puts the speedometer in, I believe, now the leftmost corner, top left corner, so that way it's easy to catch your eye.
And do Teslas have heads-up displays?
They don't, unfortunately. There are aftermarket accessories that you can put in to actually project that information.
If they had heads-up displays, then that would fix that problem too.
I know. I really wish they would have done that, but they haven't done that. But they say that, but I've noticed the screen is actually higher up compared to most. And of course, it's one of the biggest screens in the automotive industry. And according to many Tesla owners, the reason why it doesn't faze them is because somehow it's positioned that they actually don't even have to look that far to the side to see the speed limit. And that's like the number one thing we're looking for when we're looking in the gauge cluster. How fast are we going?
That's me. I'll have to test, or sometime I'll have to test drive a Model 3 just to see what it feels like.
Head down to your showroom. Head down to your closest showroom. For me, I have to travel 6 hours to do that, but like go online to Tesla's website and schedule a test drive. They offer test drives free of charge. Oh wait,
Okay,
but you
no.
have to be 18. Yeah, you have to be 18. So you might have to wait a few years before that happens.
Yeah, I might have to wait a little bit, but
So
I can get my
yeah,
dip
I can
back
do
and-
it because I'm over 18, but
Yeah, poor me for being
Yeah.
for being 15.
But once you can, or if you happen to find someone else who happens to own a Tesla and who is also willing to let you test drive it, like, I still don't think that doing it the way they're doing it is right, but I haven't completely test driven the vehicle yet, and I want to reserve judgment until I do it. So, from what most people say, it's actually not as big of an issue as they're making it out to be. And some of the Tesla owners, some of them have stated that they've driven vehicles where the gauge cluster was mounted in the center of the vehicle. So, I guess we should reserve judgment on this. That's one of my biggest complaints. It's just looking to the side. Lack of gear stocks. That's something that some people complain about. Yeah, you can get used to that. Anyone can get used to different controls like that.
But the biggest thing that bothers me about Tesla is the lack of CarPlay.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest things for me too, and that's because I prefer using Apple Maps over Google Maps.
So do I.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Google Maps is terrible compared to every other navigation system in any other car. Oh, it's clearly the best option, but
Apple Maps.
yeah, I
beats
want
it
to put
in
Apple
every
Maps
way
up in the
now.
car. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still by the time I'm finished paying off Stardust. Well, first I'm probably looking to move out, assuming that the housing market crashes. But
If
yeah, the
housing
biggest
market
things that are
crashes,
preventing me
then
from
the
buying
economy
electric right now.
crashes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
the
you- and
economy
then
has
you
already
crash.
crashed, in my opinion.
Then you crash. Then you crash, and you have no money, so therefore you can't buy a house anyway. So you don't want the
Yeah,
economy to crash, or the housing market to crash.
Well, I just want the housing market to crash and nothing else. That's it.
That'd be the ideal world.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd probably have to wait for that because so far the biggest things holding me back from buying electric is not I have no fears, I have no qualms with buying electric. It's just it pains me so much because there is literally a 240 volt outlet in the garage right now as I speak. It's been there for years. Except I can't charge here because I don't have permission to.
Why don't your parents let you charge?
Because they're, unlike me, they're scared and skeptical about the whole EV thing, and there's nothing I can say or do to convince them otherwise. Again, humans are creatures of habit. They don't
To be
like
f-
change.
To be fair, your
My
family
parents
also
are
doesn't-
perfect examples of creatures of habit.
Yep, they don't like Apple products.
They won't switch to a clearly better operating system simply because they're creatures of habit. They don't want to learn something new. My mom won't switch to an iPhone despite that she still uses that iPod Touch. She won't
Six,
switch to an
too.
iPhone because she's on Android.
Yeah, one of my friends actually, who I believe is listening to this who listens to this podcast, he actually says that he actually wants a gaming PC for Christmas, so that way he can not only play games on it, but and make music on it, but because his mom can teach him everything about Windows, because she's been a Windows user for probably quite some time. And
I'm going to stop you right there. Make
I
music on
know.
that? No.
There
Is a reason why you never see a PC in the music industry. Never see a PC in the music industry.
I already believe me. I already told him.
Yep.
And he seemed to make
Yeah, you never see a PC in the music industry, and you can technically make music on a PC, but your ability to do it is so much more limited. The best software available to you basically is Adobe Audition. But even then, you're using Adobe. Adobe has a massive problem with stability.
There's a reason. There's the going back to Mac ads. Justin Long said it years ago. Macs are built for more creative tasks, while PCs are built for boring work. And that has not changed at all. Except for the gaming PC. But to be honest, gaming doesn't
boring
matter.
work isn't exactly what PCs are good at anymore because, well, now they suck at doing even boring work. Half the time your mouse doesn't even show up when you turn the computer on now.
Yeah, they're not good at work, but they're used for that purpose. Shall we wrap up soon?
Yeah, what time? Oh my goodness, we've been at this for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm getting a little. My stomach is starting to need a little bit of recharging, and by that I mean I'm hungry. But
what? It's only 8:30 your time.
I had to eat supper at around 5. So, yeah, but
that was what, 2.5 hours ago or something? No, 3 hours ago, maybe. I don't know.
3.5, and I had pizza, so naturally I'm hungry. But as always, thank you all for tuning into another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. As always, I'm Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
And my name is Alpha DeWolf from the Random Alpha.
As always, we are saying goodbye for now, and we hope to join you all when hopefully, well, surprisingly, fans haven't acted up in this episode, but hopefully you'll never have to hear a fan again. So, as always, we'll see you until then, and goodbye, and peace out. Or, peace out.